guys, I'm Dr. Roz.
And it's your man Kil, Marriage Exposed. Back with some more questions, comments. The next joint
What you got?
My question is, I hear both of you say and use the word God a lot when you guys are discussing issues on the site. And I can't say I'm very religious, but I do believe in God. But I like to look at myself as spiritual more than religious. But one problem I do have is with the church is it seems that every problem is solved by praying and that's it. Don't you have to do something besides pray? Not trying to come off as being rude. I'm just saying. I concur.
Yeah, I do too. Faith without acts is dead.
You have to, and I do believe that folk in the church do get caught up on.
But just praying about it, God will work it out.
Right. I do believe that you have to do some things.
Which you will. I'm not saying that he won't.
Right.
You got to do your part.
My thing is just, we've always tried to say that we come off. I like to call it 90% biblical, and then it's 10% our opinion. Because if you ask me or Roz about something, it may not, that 10% may not be from a biblical standpoint. It may just be our opinion. But it's like Paul would say, like, this is just Paul talking. Like, this isn't God. This is just Paul's opinion. So things like that. But for us, I know both of us are saved. Both of us, believe in God and all that good stuff. And I just, in my opinion, you can't have a successful life, let alone marriage, without
without a prayer life.
Yeah, without being under somebody and having, I guess, rules to follow and things like that. So for me, there's no way I'll probably be married 12 years without my relationship with God. And if we were still married after 12 years, it would have been through a whole lot more hell than what it has been, without God. I'm sure my wife feels the exact same way,
No, I concur. I totally concur.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you was about to say something.
And even so, because my husband's saved too, so we can tell when we're not focused on God, we have distraction. So I think we do use God a lot because that is our foundation. But I think it's also something that gives us hope. Not so much as being religious, but, being able to rely on something. And it gives us hope. And, of course, yes, you do have to do something. You have to do the work. You have to do the work to be better. But the way we talk about it and the way that we manifest it in our life is that we wait on the guidance from God when He tells us what it is that we need to do. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused in terms of whole being religious and spiritual and, how God is talking to you and all this stuff. You have to have a prayer life to know when God is talking to you.
Right. I think Pastor Jenkins said it once that, certain people, before we had these wonderful cell phones and call waiting and everything, when you spoke to somebody on a normal basis, nobody had to call and tell you who this person was. You just heard their voice,
right,
and you automatically knew who they were.
Absolutely.
And it's the same thing with God. The more you talk to Him, you kind of get to know His voice. You get to know if it's something that's just put on your heart or things like that. But like Roz said, I'm not going to know your voice unless we talk on a normal basis. If we just talk once a year and Roz calls me and I don't know the number, I'm not going to just know automatically from saying hello that is Roz. But the more you talk to that person, the more you know. And from this person, I'm assuming it's a dude, I don't know. I used to be the same way before I guess I got saved, because
really?
I actually got the line from He Got Game. Because Denzel said, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. You know what I mean?
What does that mean?
I was like, that's fly. I don't know. I didn't know what it really meant. But I said, that sounds fly, because if you're not religious, then you got the people, you should know Jesus, you should know. Now I'm getting jumped by a bunch of Christians, so it just seems so much cooler and smoother just to be like, yo, I'm spiritual. You know what I mean? I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual.
God.
But for me, what all that really meant was I believed in God. But at the end of the day, I didn't feel like going to church, hearing all these rules.
Yeah.
And, the church, I know people in the church, they doing just as much dirt as the people in the streets. And that's one thing that I can say that from the first time me and T went to Mount Pleasant in Baltimore. And I was like, yo, this is dope. Like, the people were real nice. The first thing she taught me, and it holds true to this day, is don't get caught up in the people.
Right.
Because the people are being real nice to you, but these are the same jokers that's going to be talking about you behind your back, don't want you on the quiet stand because you sing better than they do. So when you come to church, it's about your relationship with God. It's not about the people and everything else. And that was my thought process was, these people go to church, they're going to be perfect. They're not going to do what people in the streets do. And that's why I think changing that way of thought made me be able to start going to church and enjoying it, because I don't get caught up in the people. I don't get caught up in the hoopla of the expectations of, because you're a Christian, you're gonna be better or treat me better and do all these things. It's kind of like, it is what it is with people. The people are nice, that's cool. The people are staying. I remember going to Glen Arm when it was back in the Heckinger building, and the welcoming committee was not welcoming.
For real?
Oh, they would be looking straight, and I'm like, yo, how you welcoming people in?
That's hustling, trying to get people in. Supposed to be trying to get in the overflow, man.
Yeah, but it was just like, yo, how you the first face I see? Aren't you supposed to be smiling? But because and that would have been something that turned me off. Like, these people ain't even, friendly, or I asked where I could put my child seat, and they just kind of fleed me, and that's enough for somebody. I've seen it. That's enough to make somebody be like, I don't even want to go here.
Oh, you're right. Because I when I first moved here, I was going around the churches, like looking for church. So this is one of the other huge churches in here in the DC area. And it was summer, it was hot, and I had on a sundress. I had a shawl, and it wasn't short. It was it was past my knee. When I sat down, one of the ushers brought me like a little oh gosh, I forgot the name of it. But it's not a napkin, but it's a
like the little sheet that they be throwing.
Yes, to put over my. And I was thinking to myself, like, are you kidding me? Like, it's not like I'm like sitting here with my leg. I mean, my legs were crossed, because I'm a lady at all times.
Wrong, Georgia.
I am.
I know.
My legs were crossed. It wasn't like I was inappropriate, and so that was a huge turn up. I've never gone back to that church.
But that's all I'm saying. So the people will get you out of the church. And I'm sure there are a lot of folk out there who can, co-sign and say, yeah, I did lead the choir, or I did lead the church, or I did lead this, because my expectations were so high. So, I mean, for me, it's always just come back to, I think a successful marriage, to have a successful life, you have to have some type of relationship. And in my opinion, that's Jesus. I'm not the dude who, trashes other people's religion. I know some people, I don't debate religion and all that stuff. So it's like, because there's really nothing you can say to make me turn away. So it's like, there's not nobody can say to let me know Biggie ain't the dopest MC ever. It's just not.
What?
I'm just saying, because you get into these arguments, who's the best MC, Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas. So I really don't get into them arguments.
I just saw like Biggie, and like I'm like, he wasn't a preacher.
Nah, I'm not saying Biggie. What I'm saying is that I'll talk to people and be like, yo, are you open to hearing this? Because I don't have a time to argue with you for 2 hours. If you feel like Jay is the best and you're not budging, I'm not budging. So let's not even waste 2 hours going back and forth about it. But I've had people say, well, nah, all right, let me hear what you guys say about Big. So those are the same things with religion. I have friends who are Muslims. I'm not going to go back and forth with a good friend about, whatever. If you want to hear about Jesus, I'm more than happy to tell you about the bull. But that's how me and God talk. I don't do the whole Father God, and I'm like, God,
I'm like, Father God.
Well, right. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I just talk to God like he's my man. My grace, so.
Father God.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
So that is why we talk about God a lot. We feel like it's the most important thing in my life. It's the most important thing in my marriage.
And listen, whoever you ascribe to, whatever your moralistic foundation is built upon, you have to do some work when issues, trials and tribulations come into your life. So, yes, there is more that you have to do than just praying.
Right.
You got to do more than praying.
And I'm a firm believer in that. And for people who don't know me, most people who know me know I talk a lot about Christians versus church folk, because there's a difference. So it irks me when you have some church folk, and I think we talked about this before. The analogy of when there's a flood and there's a guy on the roof, and a boat comes by and he says, yo, you need help? And he's like, nah, I'm good. And then another boat comes by and he's like, nah, I'm good. I'm waiting on God to come get me. God said he's going to save me. And then a third boat goes by and he tells him the same. Then he dies and goes to heaven and says, God, what happened? I thought you had my back. And he's like, B, I sent you 3 boats. So sometimes we could be so religious that we're like waiting for the sky to open up and Jesus' hand to come down and whisk us off the roof. And it doesn't work like that. There is work that you have to do. You pray about things. You pray about looking for a job, and then you got to look for a job. You can't just say, okay, God, give me a job, and then be playing PlayStation all day, or, whatever. You have to put the work in
You do.
To making
It's like
it happen.
anything. It's like anything.
Right.
You got to do the work.
So prayerfully that answered your question about why we talk about God so much. Prayerfully that answered your question about don't you have to do some other things too instead of just doing things. And I understand that wholeheartedly. A lot of people are guilty of just saying, pray for your husband, pray for your wife, and anoint him with oil, and they don't give you the practical steps. It's kind of like just pray for your husband. It's like, cool, I'm doing that, but how do I get past? So there still have to be practical steps, and sometimes as Christians, we, get so caught up in just praying that we don't give you the practical steps. So prayerfully that answered your question.
I hope that helped.
Yeah, so I'm Kil.
And I'm Dr. Roz.
Keep it alive for more Marriage Exposed.